It's the boy Blackbeard Mirage. I'm back, the American Moslem. Time to go over some more Moorish occult history so we can all go into the higher depth sciences of our own higher selves. Because as the Prophet Noble Drew Ali stated, that this is a divine and national movement. So today we're going to read a little bit into the brother Noble Drew Ali and what he really wanted us to know. And then we're going to kind of clear up some concepts on some stuff. So I noticed that in some of my previous tapes, I had a guy who was in the comment section who seemed to have a problem with us over here calling ourselves Muslims and connecting ancient Islam to so-called black people, and us saying that we are the originators of this stuff. What you all got to remember is that the public and most people think that the Moors or these Arabs that you see today are the same people. And they think that the culture of Islam and the heritage of Islam comes from these amalgamated Arabs that you all see today. Whereas that is not true. It's no different than, the Catholic system, the Catholic religious mystery system. And it's no different than the Latin mystery system, or what you all call the Spanish, language, etc. The people that you see practicing to that were not the originators of that. So what I'm saying is that these so-called Spaniards that you all see today, or these so-called Spanish people, and these so-called Arabs, both are the amalgamated children of these old Moors of the past. Some of these Moors spoke Latin, ancient Latin or ancient Phoenician, and some of these Moors spoke the ancient Maghreb language or the ancient Arabic language. And then the amalgamated children they had, they taught these children those new languages, and they taught those children the religious customs so they could somehow be like their forefathers and be like their foremothers. Okay, so you got to remember, as a Muslim or a Moor, you don't interface with the religion of Islam or the spiritual science of Islam as the same way as the Goyim or the Gentile. This is why I talked about the Goyim or the Gentile the other day. This is why in the Old Testament or in the so-called Bible, they make a very, very distinction or a difference between the house of Israel or the house of the Hebrews, the house of Abraham, and the Goyim and the Gentile. See, the Goyim or the Gentile don't come from that bloodline, okay? But they still may follow so-called Christ. You got to remember that Christ or Yeshua comes from the house of Israel. He is one of them by blood, you see. That's why when he came back, of course, he came to save his own people from his bloodline, but he also came to preach a particular doctrine to people that were not from his bloodline. And those people that were not from his bloodline, they actually followed the ways of Yeshua. So they followed a lot of the customs and traditions of Yeshua or the so-called Hebrews. But by blood, or by, we could say, direct nativity, they were not from the house of Israel or from the bloodline or the loins of Abraham. You see what I'm saying? They weren't from that. So there is a difference between the Gentile and the Goyim, and one who is from the house of the Muslim, or one who is from the house of Israel, or one is, from the house of Sarah and Muhammad. Sarah and Abraham. There is a difference between the two. Okay. So all so-called black people, we are more so from the house of Israel. We are not the Goyim or the Gentile. We were not trained and taught these customs. We were the ones that naturally had these customs that were given to us basically from Allah, or direct from the higher self or the Most High. And this is just our way of life. So these are the people, when they saw our way of life, they had to be initiated and trained and go through ceremonies to become us. So it's no different than this. Let's say you got the brothers on the block, in the hood. You know how we just sit on the green box? You know what I'm saying? You got a few niggas over there smoking the blunts, few niggas over here with their cigarettes, a few niggas over here roasting and shit like that. What other shit we do on the block? Playing dice and stuff like that. Few niggas playing spades and tunk. We got a few sisters over here braiding hair. We got some of the young goddesses, some of the young Moors, the young sisters doing double dutch and stuff like that. Basically the stuff that you all see in the black community, right? That's what we naturally are. That's what we do. But when people wanted to try to be like us, they start to adopt our customs, and you can clearly tell that they trying to be like us, but they're not us. So it's like, let's say the rapper Eminem or Yellow Wolf or something like that, or Lil White or some of these other rappers. You see them basically using Moorish culture, but they had to actually adopt and become initiated into our way of doing things. So in other words, when you see a white boy sagging his pants, you know where he got that from. When you see a so-called white woman wearing the cornrows and extensions, you know who she got that from. When you see the white women trying to You know what I'm saying? Do the different little legs exercises to get their ass rounder and fatter. You know who they trying to be like. You see what I'm saying? When you see the white boys, or it could even be, let's say, the Asians or any of these other cultures doing certain things, you know, it could be something as mundane as twerking. You know who they trying to be like. But they have to go through certain initiations and processes to naturally do what we do. So the reason why I said all that is to kind of tie it in with these Arabs that you see today. The Islam that they practice today, they were actually taught and initiated into that and had to go through ceremony rituals to be that. But that is naturally what we are. So although you see them wearing turbans, although you see some of them wearing fezzes, although you see them wearing a lot of traditional Muslim or Islamic attire, they had to be initiated and taught that. And the reason why you don't think that we were the ones that created it is because we are actually activating the Negro, black, and colored culture. We are under demonic possession right now, so we are not in our proper person. Okay? I'll give you an example. Now, I'm about to show you all something, but you got to forgive me because Muslims or Moors really ain't supposed to be doing this. But you know what I'm saying? A lot of my stuff was kind of, you know, I was moving some stuff around, so that's why you're going to see it the way you see it. And I'm saying this so you can understand the culture of why I'm showing you this. And understand why before I go into it. So right here in front of you, you have, this is one of my turbans. Okay, I have a turban, you know, but it's kind of wrapped up right now, you know, because it was in my closet. You know, traditionally Moors and Muslims don't supposed to have their shit wrapped up like this. It's supposed to be a little more neater. Okay, so I don't want to show you all the wrong way of doing this shit. But this is my turban right here. It's one of the first ones I bought, and I'm still learning how to properly tie them. But I used to live in a community around a lot of East Indians, and a lot of them were Islamic, you know, and I would talk about this stuff with them and they would just be so shocked that I knew this. Once again, now everybody around me wearing turbans, you know what I'm saying, with little jewels in their turbans and all this shit. So I've been around this culture and I've been tried and tested to prove to myself that I am who I'm saying I am. OK, so I've been around plenty of East Indians. You know what I'm saying? Grown East Indian men with full beards wearing turbans now, and me seeing them telling them about this American Muslim culture and how we are Moors and how our ancestors were Islamic, etc. And they all are bearing witness to what I'm saying. When I went and bought that turban, I bought it from, once again, it was an East Indian store where they sell a lot of like the saris and a lot of different attire that a lot of our women used to wear. So that's another thing, like a lot of the attire that you see these East Indian women wearing, that's what a lot of the Moorish women used to wear. But anyway, I was in the store buying it, and they didn't question why I was in there. They already knew what time it was. You know what I'm saying? And they, you know, and they sized it up for me and stuff like that. It's just I gotta, you know, learn how to properly tie it. And as you can see, I got my feathers right here that I put inside my turban, and also I have certain jewels that I can put on my turban as well. So when I wear this turban, I'm not trying to be like anybody. These people are trying to be like me. And just because I forgot how to tie my turban and I have been wearing one for the last few hundred years, it doesn't subtract what I'm sitting here saying. So you all can wear fezzes and turbans and feathers and things of this nature because it is your birthright. It's part of your inheritance. You inherited that the same way that you inherited this same occult information coming out of Egypt. Okay, etc. So this is part of you all's inheritance by wearing these turbans and all this other type of attire. Okay. And when you all start seeing me in videos and shit like that, I'm going to have it on, you know. So I'll go in the public with my shit on. You know what I'm saying? And when they see me, they know what time it is. Once again, they look at my beard. They're like, he has this big ass beard like some of these Hebrews do. You see what I'm saying? And I can look at him and tell that he looks like a lot of these Moors in these pictures. And then he's actually speaking the language. OK, so although I'm not speaking Arabic, I'm speaking English because some of these Moors did, you know, deals with the English. But we ain't talking about that right now. But I said all that to say you all are Moors or Muslims by bloodline, and you are from the house of Israel. You are from the house of Muhammad. You are from the house of Abraham and Sarah. So this is why we are Moors, and this is why we don't even probably do some of these traditions that you see these Arabs and these other people doing. Because do I pray 5 times a day? No, I do not. You know, but I do plan on going to Mecca and doing other things that the original Muslim culture has included. But at the same time, that doesn't make me not a Muslim or a Moor because I'm not doing, let's say, you know, like because I'm not praying 5 times a day, for example. Another thing, when I talked to a guy that was from Syria, I met a guy from Syria and a guy that was from Afghanistan. The guy from Syria, he was very, very traditional in a lot of his Muslim culture because, once again, they were initiated into that. So he did pray 5 times a day, and he took that stuff very, very serious. But the guy from Afghanistan, he was a little more liberal with his culture, and he didn't necessarily do that. And I can remember one day we were all having dialogue and just, the different differences and stuff like that. And one of them, said that they should be praying 5 times a day. But the one who was a little more liberal, he did it. But by me being the original Muslim, I'm sitting back looking at both of them like, well, this is what you all are doing. But both of you all learned this from me. So I don't have to do what neither one of you all are doing. You see what I'm saying? Because I'm from, like I said, I'm from the bloodline. I'm from the house of Abraham and Sarah. So I don't have to be initiated into being that. Once again, the brothers on the block don't have to be initiated in how to roll dice. The brothers on the block don't have to be initiated in how to ask their partner for a short. The brothers on the block don't have to be initiated into how to, play Gucci Man loud as hell on the radio. In other words, we don't have to be initiated in how to be black. And it's the same way with being a Moor. You don't have to be initiated into being a Moor. You just need to learn the customs that your ancestors had and then to reactivate them. All right. So right now I'm going to read a little deeper into what we kind of talked about on the last tape, because as I said before, we are Moors or Muslims of the West. That's our direct culture. OK, and we're going to read into one of the prophets that was our direct prophet, which is Prophet Noble Drew Ali. That is one of our Heru figures that we need to be actually holding up, because this was a brother that was from America, and he only really was telling us the shit we needed to know about us. He didn't have us looking no other place other than the Americas. OK, and he gave us this Moorish information. So let's go into the readings on the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And let's learn about him, because this tape is actually dedicated to Noble Drew Ali. All right. Also, too, I told you all what Muslim means, because you keep hearing me refer to myself and refer to you all as a Muslim. What is a Muslim? I read it to you all prior in the previous tape. The word Muslim or Moslem is derived from the Arabic Hebraic ma or ma'u, which stems from the Egyptian Sumerian mu, which meant waters. The root stem slim implies peace. So Mu Salam means a being who is derived from Al-Ma and is a being of peace. The waters that we derive from are twofold, spiritually and scientifically. Okay, so those waters, once again, are the dark waters of Allah, and then the dark waters of the placenta when you were born out your mother's womb. So you were born in peace. So when I'm saying you are a Muslim or a Moor, you were born in peace. This is also why we say Moors are melanated people, or people of melanin, because there's a melanin is the dark waters or the Al-Ma. Okay. So once again, see, a person who is an Arab, dealing with the traditional, understanding, they're not going to tell you any of that. You know what I'm saying? Because they're not actually initiated into the higher science. Some of the ones that are Freemasons are like in your Muslim Brotherhood, but most of them are not. Like it says right here. It says that we are by nationality and lineage Muslims or Moors. No Arab scholar will ever explain Islam like this to black people or their own people, because they too have been deceived by their own scholarship. So this is why this guy came in my comment section and he had a problem with how we were talking about Islam and we were connecting it to the Egyptian mystic system. He like, wait a minute, this ain't what I'm used to. You know what I'm saying? This isn't what they talking about at the mosque. Like, what is this guy talking about? He's an infidel. So then he wants to dislike my stuff and come in my comment section, but he's just part of the ignoramus and part of the separator class and the confused class. Okay. So now we're going to read about the brother Noble Drew Ali. All right. Black people in general have not learned the most applicable truths of their greatest leaders, which means that most of us have missed our nation's greatest blessings. How many of us have ever known the man pictured above, Noble Drew Ali? Do you know why? It is the same reason why historically black colleges will never teach independent city planning, military warfare, and independent law for black people. A great part of Noble Drew Ali's mission deals with law and government. The works of Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Americans of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and the work of reintroducing black people to our historical indigenous Islamic legacy, bringing the idea of nationalizing us as a nation under a new status and citizenship, beginning with the process of informing us to our domicile indigenous Islamic history here in the Americas, Amexem, and throughout the world was and is a profound work that is directly related to the subject of reparations/restoration. This gives us much to discuss in regards to Islam's true connection to United States and international government, religion, and the general and specific histories that will play an important role in the next few years of the most event-altering history period in history. The public school curriculums and even Black History Month fanfare of the United States educational system do not teach of Noble Drew Ali and the great work associated with the Moorish history in America. Why? Is it in any way connected to the present quote-unquote war on terror? Let's see if the black man practicing the higher spiritual science of Islam is a threat to the corrupt governmental establishment in the United States. In his Holy Quran, Circle 7, Ali stated his sole purpose: the Moorish Science Temple of America, deriving its power and authority from the great Quran of Muhammad, to propagate the faith and extend the learning and truth of the great prophet of Ali in America, to appoint and consecrate missionaries of the prophet, and to establish the faith of Muhammad in America. So this is telling you all right here what Noble Drew Ali's whole goal was, but keep listening up. This man plays a very important role in history. He is the first teacher of the original faith, God's faith, the old time religion, submission to the will of Allah or God, which is called by many names. However, in Arabic, we say Islam. Now, listen, y'all, this part is very, very important. Please listen up, y'all. Please listen to this part. Please listen. He brought this truth back to the true house of Israel, the descendants of the family of Amran or Abraham. This is who we, the black people in America, are referred to as in the third surah of the Quran. It is my contention that Noble Drew Ali and his family, along with the mass amounts of our people, are key links of study in regards to our divine lineage from the 18th dynasty of Egypt, Moorish Israel. I'm going to repeat this whole part. He brought this truth back to the true house of Israel, the descendants of the family of Amran or Abraham. This is who we, black people in America, are referred to as in the third surah of the Quran. It is my contention that Noble Drew Ali and his family, along with the mass amounts of our people, are key links of the study in regards to our divine lineage from the 18th dynasty of Egypt, Moorish Israel. He was a descendant of a man named Yusuf bin Ali, a black man of Morocco, who was a Moorish Muslim national who lived in America. Yusuf bin Ali and his son York were instrumental in activity with Lewis and Clark in the expansion of white people's knowledge of the western frontier in America during the 1800s. Noble Drew Ali's father and mother also play a very important role in respect to this subject of American jurisprudence, land, and our ancient indigenous history. So right here, let's go over this first few parts before we move on. So the first thing is going into the brother Noble Drew Ali. I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all know how he looks. If not, we'll show a picture of the brother real quick. So this is the picture of the brother Noble Drew Ali right here. As you can see, a Moorish Muslim American. Also note how he has on what? A turban with a jewel and a feather, right? So this is connected you all's Islamic Egyptian history right here. You all are from the house of Israel. This information was brought back to us by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So this should help you understand a little bit deeper to why I keep putting that Quran up. Because the Quran is, in a form or a way, our own governmental book. So it goes on to say that this brother Noble Drew Ali brought us back this information. And a lot of the reasons we don't know why is because of this whole quote unquote war on terror. So the same way that they had the war on terror and they saying that we're going to have a fight against Islam, It's the same reason why the educational curriculum doesn't include anything about Noble Drew Ali. To where even in school, although these Caucasians hate Malcolm X, because Malcolm X was a Muslim or a Moor, and he knew it too now. This is why Malcolm X said that we hate to call ourselves Aborigines and we don't want to call ourselves Aborigines. So why would Malcolm X call us Aborigines if he had no information on this Moorish American history? When the great Malcolm X went across the Atlantic into the Muslim countries and he was told his real true history. Okay? So Malcolm X even knew this. But even though these Caucasians hate Malcolm X, they will rather show you Malcolm X than Noble Drew Ali. Because Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad and a lot of these other guys actually got their information and their understandings from what was left behind, and maybe even directly from Prophet Noble Drew Ali himself. So Prophet Noble Drew Ali would be almost like our version of Aleister Crowley. You know how these white folks have Aleister Crowley and how he is one of their occult symbols, to where you're not going to really ever hear them talk about him in the public eye because he's occult and esoteric in nature. He's a magi of the Caucasian community. So he's going to have to remain in the shadows. You got to remember, your adepts, the people that deal with the higher sciences, they're always in the shadows. That's why I was saying on the previous tape, they do things like the assassin does. If you look into Noble Drew Ali, a lot of his history is very, very occult. When they say he went to Egypt, that the high priest of Egypt actually met Noble Drew Ali and took him in the great pyramids of Egypt and told him that he had to find his way out of this pyramid, okay? And he actually had to end up doing this. And a lot of this same esoteric mysticism can be found in this book right here. Hold on real quick. The Aquarian Gospel of Yeshua, or Jesus the Christ, is another book that gives you the initiation processes that the higher adept or the Muslim has to go through before he comes into his higher self. So you will see a lot of Noble Drew Ali's work kind of parallel with this, but that still doesn't mean that it didn't really happen, okay? So you got to kind of keep that in mind. This is another book that's very, very important to Muslims, all right? And that's why Noble Drew Ali used it in his work. So let's continue on. So when they talk about the war on terror, it's also a war on your education. That's why they don't tell you about Noble Drew Ali. Then it goes on to say that Noble Drew Ali brought back the truth to the house of Israel. So if it's saying right here that Noble Drew Ali brought this truth back to the true house of Israel, the descendants of the family of Amram or Abraham, why did he come back and talk to us if we weren't the house of Israel or we weren't the descendants of Abraham? So this is no different than Yeshua when he came back to raise the consciousness of the Hebrews or those Moors, because those Hebrews are Moors. And that's who Yeshua came back to wake up. Just like Noble Drew Ali came back to wake up the Hebrews or the Moors or the house of Israel of America. Okay. And this is how it went down. In the same way in the Bible, how when Yeshua came back to teach his own people and to raise the consciousness of his own people, that you had a lot of Gentiles, a Goyim, that actually accepted him and his own people didn't accept him. And Yeshua even said that in the book, you know. And it's the same with Noble Drew Ali. You know, you got a lot of people out here that are not even Moors or Muslims, and they actually will acknowledge Noble Drew Ali before we will. Let's continue. The members of the 18th dynasty are hidden under the so-called major prophets of the Bible and Quran, and this lineage is the nation descended from Amram, or from this time period called the New Kingdom in Egypt, that gives rise to the Olmecs or the Amexem civilization in America. So it's just telling you right here now that the major prophets of the Bible and the Quran come from this lineage of the 18th dynasty that descended from Amram. And it also says that from this time period called the New Kingdom in Egypt, it gave rise to the Olmecs or the Amexem Empire in the Americas. The Olmec, Mayan, Aztec civilizations are given credit for all the scientific, astronomical, agricultural, architectural, engineering, pyramid, and mound building civil advancement that took place in ancient America. The natives of the land of Mexico, Central America, and the Yucatan, specifically the Quiche or the Kush Kish, people of Maya land or Maryland say that their ancestors were Israelites. Let me repeat that whole last part. The natives of the land of Mexico, Central America, and the Yucatan, people of Maya land, say that their ancestors were Israelites. So it says right here that the people of the Yucatan, Mexico, and Central America said that their ancestors were Israelites. Oh, it makes sense now. Now I understand why all these tablets were found around the Americas with the 10 Commandments on them. Now I understand why all this Paleo-Hebrew and this ancient Aramaic and ancient Arabic writing was in the Americas on these tablets. Oh, I get it. Now I understand why Yaqub is also known as Jacob in the Old Testament, a so-called Hebrew. Does this stuff start to make sense to y'all? I hope it is. Also, too, like I told you all, that we are Moors, but the word Moor also comes from the word Mary. The word Mary comes from the Egyptian mystery system, which means beloved one or God. Okay? So it says right here that Mary or Moors, that the areas of Central America also was known as Maya land. So the Mayans or the Marys or the Moors or the Merus, these are all the same people. So when they say the Mayan people or the Maya civilization, this is the Moorish or the Mary civilization, the Amaru civilization. All right. But it don't get more open than this. It says that the natives of Mexico, Central America, and the Yucatan say that their ancestors were Israelites. Noble Jew Ali came back to raise who? The house of Israel. But he came back and talked to so-called black people, right? So this is why I say that those people in the black conscious community they have no idea what they're talking about. Because the Moorish group, the Egyptian group or the Hotep group, and the Hebrew Israelite community or group all are connected, but they all sitting there battling each other when they all are sitting there talking about the same thing and they all stem from the same ancestors. You see the fucking foolishness in that shit? And this is why I don't never entertain any of that stuff. And this is why when you talk to me, you will see that I consolidate the Moorish, Egyptian, and Hebrew Israelite history into one. This is why I do it, because I understand this shit because I study it. And I study it from a non-biased point of view. I just want to know what the truth is. All right, let's keep up. In history, they were the 18th dynasty Amarna nation that left Timor or Timeri, Egypt or Africa, and fled to the Middle East and America. So they're telling you right now that this same bloodline or dynasty of people, this 18th dynasty of Egypt, they fled Egypt or Africa and went into the Middle East and went into the Americas. So now you also can see why some of these Hebrew Israelites in America, why they think that their home is the Levant or the Middle East. Because it actually is. But what they don't realize is that some of our ancestors went to the Levant and some of our ancestors came to the Americas, but it was the same people. So yes, when we talk about the New Jerusalem, yes, we are talking about the Levant, but you are also talking about the Americas people. So for the Hebrew Israelite community out there, the Hebrew brothers and sisters, yes, Israel in the Middle East and the Levant is your old home, but America is your old home too. So you have two homes as Aboriginal Hebrews. You see, you have two homes because when we left Egypt, some of us came to the Americas, some of us came to the Levant. So this is what your whole Exodus story is. You see, it's very, very dramatized in the Bible where it has the conflicts and stuff like that. But ultimately, this is what it is. You know, you had a greater empire and a greater Aboriginal indigenous culture of people from Timeri. And within this, you had a bloodline or a dynastic group of people known as the House of Israel. That clearly created a whole new spiritual system under the Aten, which was the monotheistic system that has infused within it the polytheistic system. Like I told you all before, this is why in Islam you have Allah, but you have the 99 attributes of Allah. This is why in the Hebrew mystery system you have the Most High, But then you have all the different Elohim, which are the different goddesses and goddesses that are extensions of the Most High. So yes, you have the one God, or the one Neter, or the one Neteru, but you have the different gods and goddesses that are extensions of that. It's no different than you have the 13th zodiac sign, and then you have the other 12 houses of the zodiac that surround it. So it's no, you see these connections between the 12 houses of the zodiac. You see what I'm saying? The different 12 houses of the Israelites, or the 12 houses of Jacob, or the 12 houses of Abraham. You see the connections in all this stuff. Let's keep it going. So it says that in history, they were the 18th dynasty, the Amarna dynasty, once again, the house of Israel of Egypt, that left Tamari, or Egypt, Africa, and fled into the Middle East and America. The Quiche, spelled Quichee, the Quiche, who are a native tribe in Mexico, report this origin to Priest and Mysteries of the Mexican Pyramids by Peter Tompkins. So here is another resource of where I'm getting this information from. There is a book called Mysteries of the Mexican Pyramids by Peter Tompkins. Mysteries of the Mexican Pyramids by Peter Tompkins. And then we're going to read this part and we'll wrap it up. This is the quote from the book. These then were the three nations of Quiches, and they came from where the sun rises, descendants of Israel of the same language and the same customs. Temple of Inscriptions at Palenque, Mexico, houses the only Egyptian-style burial tomb in the Western Hemisphere, said by some researchers to be the tomb of Paco Voltan. Researcher Ali Muhammad attributes the tomb of the lost burial of Moses, Pharaoh Akhenaten, the leader of the Moorish Israelites. I'm going to show you a picture. So here we have right here in front of us, of course, one of the pyramids in the Yucatan. But it says that these then were the three nations of Quiches, and they came from where the sun rises, descendants of Israel of the same language and the same customs. So they're saying that whoever built these pyramids in Central America or Mexico came from where the sun rises, which is clearly the east, and they were the descendants of Israel. Now, mind you, they came from the east thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, y'all. These are the pyramids right here, though. Then it says that the temple inscriptions of Palenque, Mexico, houses the only Egyptian-style burial tomb in the Western Hemisphere. So they're saying that in these tombs in Central America, that they have Egyptian-style burial tombs. How are you going to have Egyptian-style burial tombs in pyramids in the Americas if these aren't the same people with the same culture and the same customs? Then it goes on to say that the researcher Ali Muhammad attributes the tomb of the lost burial of Moses, or Pharaoh Akhenaten, the leader of the Moorish Israelites. So they're saying right here that Moses and the Pharaoh Akhenaten of Egypt are the same people. So could the Hebrew Moses and the Egyptian Pharaoh Akhenaten be the same people? You see? Could they be the same people? So I just wanted to drop that history, man, to kind of put that out there. You know what I'm saying? That you all are from the house of Israel or the house of the old Moors, all right? And we need to dig into this history. It's your boy Blackbeard. Y'all stay tuned for the next one. I'm out.